Mary LaHammer here at the Minnesota State Capitol, coming to you. I was going to be working for national PBS tonight, was on standby to be on PBS NewsHour just a few moments ago. I will be on Almanac Friday night with much more coverage from another issue gripping the nation as an ICE officer shot and killed a Twin Cities resident, now identified as 37-year-old Renee Good. Her mother identified her just moments ago. On the NewsHour, the first question that they were going to ask was, what's the reaction on the ground here? And what I was going to say is, so far we're hearing a mix of anger, angst, confusion, sadness. But sadness, a woman is dead, and her mother said she was the kindest person she'd ever known. But who's to blame? Maybe depends on what angle of the video you've seen. There's many, many angles. Everybody had a camera there, and you can see a lot of the analysis is now saying that the wheels of her vehicle were pointed away from the officers. We do know that the officer who shot her, you can see that, is on the side of her vehicle, but then there also appears, if you look at other video angles, that there was another officer in front of her. We don't know if she struck that officer or not. There are some claims that perhaps she did. Depends maybe on your political perspective, again, how you see this, whether you see it as one side of the aisle saying a brazen murder, the other side describing it as an act of domestic terrorism. Interesting here so far in Minnesota, Republican leaders are saying that their hearts go out to those who are grieving, and so far not repeating the rhetoric that we're hearing out of the federal government. And they're saying so far they're waiting for the investigation. That is Senate Majority Leader Mark Johnson, and we just heard from House Speaker Lisa Damith and other Republicans. So far, actually, former lawmaker Pat Garofalo applauding Damith and saying that's what unity and leadership looks like, not repeating the national rhetoric, but actually saying, let's wait and see. Let's see what we know. What we do know is that the Democratic mayor of Minneapolis told ICE with some very salty language, get out of Minneapolis. The Democratic governor of Minnesota again said, get out of Minnesota, ICE. We don't want you here. The governor announced that he has put out an order to have the National Guard standing at the ready. That is 13,000 soldiers on standby to serve the state, not the federal government. The governor made it clear that the National Guard, he is the commander of. They serve Minnesotans, and this is important because the governor, of course, is in a feud with President Trump ever since really he ran for vice president, but it has really escalated since the fraud and identifying of the Somali community and the immigration action against the Somali community here. And then earlier this week, this is still this week, Governor Walz deciding not to run again for that unprecedented third term, citing the attacks and the concern of safety and the lives of his family. So it's been really a roller coaster week so far in Minnesota politics. And the governor said, the National Guard needs to be ready and on standby for possible protests. And he said, we've been through this before. We're good at this. And unfortunately, he said, because we've been through civil unrest and protest. Minneapolis, of course, is a city where a police officer was convicted for the death of George Floyd. So he said the National Guard is essentially on standby for civil unrest, potentially riots, protests underway here in Minneapolis, as again the nation watching another tragic event happening here and really dividing folks on whether this was terrorism or whether this was a murder. A lot of attention. A lot of unrest continue to come. We'll continue to cover it for you here on Substack and much more Friday on Almanac.